My name is Alan Hoffmanner from the Center for Growth Leadership and Agile Edge. And today we want to talk about a key issue that many organizations largely ignore, to their own detriment: how people decisions are made and the impact of those people decisions on the organization. So by this we mean choosing successors for key positions, elevating current employees, i.e. promotions, and selecting new employees, i.e. hiring. These are the key decisions. They in turn impact a number of things, including employee engagement and fulfillment, team performance, and company brand. These in turn impact the goals of the organization, organizational health overall, employee retention, employee experience, and financial performance and overall goal achievement. So how can we make better people decisions in organizations? We all come with biases, we all have our own incentives and motivations, and we all have different perspectives. So we like to remind people about what we call the performance wheel, which sort of integrates all the key issues that you need to consider. So for accuracy, insight, and simply to make effective decisions, you need to assess performance, potential, aspirations, and motivations. And if you look at the whole picture, there's really two basic categories of information you have to look at. Eligibility: can you do the job? And these are technical knowledge, experiences that you've had that you can benefit from, certifications, all that kind of stuff. And then suitability, which is a little harder to get at, is will you do what it takes to be a high performer? And this is more of the softer type thing. So let's look at that in more detail by using what we call the performance wheel. The right side has the suitability. Will you do what it takes to be a high performer? Motivations, attitudes, interests, work preferences, interpersonal skills, what you expect and aspire to, natural expectations, behavioral competencies, things like negotiating, working in unstructured situations, working remotely even, behavior under stress, passion for a job, and fit with a boss. All these things can, to a large degree, be measured objectively, but typically they are assessed subjectively with a lot of inaccuracies and bias. The other side is more factual. You can look at somebody's resume and derive these things, assuming that things were done honestly. So let's next consider what happens to many organizations when they embark on making key people decisions, whether it be succession planning and perhaps putting people into one of 9 boxes, or whether that be hiring or promotional decisions. In most cases, the information brought to bear is subjective. Even with resume information, you're making a judgment on the impact of a person's experiences and education. When you're pulling this stuff out of your memory and processing interview interactions, behaviors at meetings, even resume information and other interactions, you have, of course, selective memory, but you also have bias of other kinds and, of course, subjectivity. So quite often, the information brought to bear on people decisions is highly, if not almost exclusively, subjective. So on this grid that's right below me, in the red, you have highly subjective and very low objective. So you have biased, incomplete, subject to manipulation information. So when people start talking about others' capabilities, tendencies, competencies, does it align with the objective information? If not, why? But if you don't have the objective information, you have no way of checking that, and bias tends to rule the day. Ideally, you want to be on top. That is, highly subjective information and highly objective amount of information balancing each other out. They complete each other. This forms a complete picture of the person when you put them together. So also next, you need to consider mindset, and especially the sort of trade-off between analytical and intuitive mindsets. So here we have analytical on the left and intuitive on the right. What mostly happens with business people, with managers, is you have people who are quite a bit more analytical than intuitive. So there tends to be a bias. But what also happens is when you stick analytical people who need to see the black and white into a subjective process where you don't have the objective information that's worth anything, it creates all kind of new problems. And the main result is myopic, missing non-concrete behaviors, and overconfidence in their judgments. But here at least you have a chance of balancing out the perspective, because you can make sure that you have more intuitive people in the room and that they are being heard. But again, ideally, you want high amount of analytical thought and you want a high amount of wisdom and intuitive thought together to balance this out to make better people decisions. Finally, let's look at another dynamic in organizations, and that's the process. And here we'll look at two factors: the speed, decisiveness desired in the process, and what happens when people get together with their boss and do these kinds of meetings, and the thoroughness and quality of the information and the time spent making the decisions. So here again, you have a tendency to end up, I think most people would agree, in the upper left. That is, with a meeting that's often check the box. If you're doing succession planning, so a lot of times even hiring decisions, it's make a decision and move on because you have all your daily pressing projects to get back to. And this worsens, again, the situation with the subjectivity, and really erodes the quality of the decision-making process. So once again, you want to have balance here. You want to have the discipline to have both decisiveness, but also quality, thorough discussions and considerations, so that you're in the green area on top, where you make informed, effective decisions. But basically, all three of these have to go together. You need the information, and you need a balance between the subjective and objective. The objective completes and forms the backstop for the subjective information. You need the mindset on the bottom right here, where you're not just overanalyzing, you're not just looking at the black and white, you're being able to consider the gray areas, because that is what human nature involves. And then you need the process. That's not a check the box and move on type process, or make the boss feel happy process, where you just make quick decisions, base it on one or two pieces of information or on the boss's opinion, and move on. You need the balance between speed, decisiveness, and quality, thorough consideration. All three go together, and it's not an easy task to do so, which is one reason we have our balanced talent card process. All right, so next let's talk about the biases, or at least some of the 15 major biases that are always prevalent at some level when you're involved in people decision making.